I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, April the 25th, brought to you in part by Witex Corporation. Witex provides excellence in animal health, including but not limited to All-American ID tags for all classes of livestock. For more information on Witex, go to y-tex.com. Also, Beaver County Stockyards. Beaver County is going to have another good sale here on Tuesday, about 2,500 head. It's extremely dry in that part of the country. It really hasn't rained in 2 years to speak of. We were hoping to get some rain out of these storms that are going to move across and hopefully give some relief to Kansas, but just not expecting to get too much there in the Oklahoma Panhandle. I was talking to them there on Monday evening. They said that low-hanging clouds, and it was cool out, but no moisture to speak of at all. Got some more chances coming up here, but not as good as Kansas. And boy, we hope Kansas gets some relief here, and they need moisture in the worst possible way, guys. But Beaver County here on Tuesday got about 500 calves. There's going to be another big run of really light calves pulled right off the cow. Most of them weighing from 150 to 400 pounds there. Not going to be a whole lot of weaned calves there. Maybe only about a third of the calf offering is going to be weaned, because so many of them are being pulled right off the cow as people are just having to bring in their mothers and calves because they don't have anything for them to eat, and it's really not an option to try to find hay and buy hay for them. So continuing to sell off their cow herd in that part of the country. Going to have a good run of yearlings, about 1,500 head of yearlings. Be 8 straight loads of 850 to 1,000 pound steers. They always have a good load lot run of steers there. About 4 loads of 850 pound heifers. They are going to have one unique offering there. 50 head, 675 pound IMI global heifers there. They will have all the bells and whistles that they need, and they are replacement quality, guys. They may not be beautiful when they come through because they are in a thin condition. They're coming out of dry country, guys, but got a right to weigh a whole lot more. It would be good if you had a place to put those, to make those into cows. But 50 head of those, and be sure to look for those. About 500 cows. There will be just a few young pairs in there, and then have running ages of bred cows there from people that just aren't able to hold on to them anymore. The tight supplies are not easing. I don't care what you think, and I realize our cattle on feed report was perceived to be bearish, but we didn't find any more cattle. There's not any more cattle out there. In fact, there's fewer. But increased March placements of cattle on feed, or placements going on to feed there, were mostly in Texas, which still only has about 95% of a year ago on feed total numbers there. So they're down quite a bit. But those placements that were increased in March, they're just going to show up when we see April placements and May placements, because just no place for those cattle to put out. A little dab of graze out wheat out there, but what graze out they had, they mostly slicked up really early, and that's why those cattle went on to feed earlier. And there's a lot of lightweights, as we talked about on our last visit. A lot of those cattle weighing under 600 pounds. But we haven't found any more cattle, and nobody seems to be talking about the number of baby calves that we lost in the northern plains through these massive snowstorms that they had up there. You can't save them all when you've got feet of snow falling on those newborn calves, right while you have so many cows and heifers that are calving right there. And I've heard some stories, some of them are catastrophes, guys. People losing a third or more of their calves. And we had massive snowstorms all through the calving season up in the northern plains, guys, and we just haven't talked near enough about that. That is going to show up down the road. We're not going to show up with more cattle. We're under extremely tight numbers of cattle here for the next 2 years. Yes, our cow slaughter is down a little bit here compared to last year, which was huge as we've gone through this calendar year, but all of slaughter is down. We're still slaughtering a lot of heifers, some fat heifers there, and there's been really no signs of any herd rebuilding. Most of the replacement heifers that folks kept back and were grooming for their replacements because the market is coming around and they want to keep things going. The majority of those have been sold off later. They sold their steer calves and their cut heifers there earlier, and then the replacement heifers, they tried to keep them, ran out of feed and ended up having to sell them. So a lot of heifers on feed, guys, and we're just in for a long string here of tight supplies. So, you know, the packers are going to win the battles. If we let fundamentals pay attention at all, your cattleman is going to win the war here. And, you know, you can say they've already won it. We've got all-time record high prices of fat cattle. We've got a really smoky calf and yearling market. It's not an all-time high yet because in 2014 we had plentiful supplies of forage and hay and things like that to hold them on. But we also rebuilt a heck of a lot quicker when we come out of that big rally, and we're not going to be able to do that just yet. But you know, we're going through a time here where our June live cattle futures, which I continue to talk about that, and that's the big news, guys, is our spot live cattle futures contract here after this week is going to be June, and it's sitting about $15 back of what our fat cattle market is. So you think, well, that doesn't really measure up. Well, your hedged cattle feeder loves it because he can trade out the paper there, sell his cattle, and he's getting, you know, from $13 to $15 of a basis there that tax on top of what he got for his cattle there, and he's likely selling those cattle at a pretty decent profit here. We want those guys to make profits, but the problem is when you jump at that basis and you don't stay hooked and fight for higher market position, you know, it's no good for your cattle market. And once we get to sliding like we did last week, it's really hard to get it to you know, get kind of hedged back up here and forced back higher because everybody's just really lost their fight with this huge basis that they're going to be jumping at. And I assume that I'm going to be and most market watchers are going to be disappointed in your fat cattle trade this week with the huge basis, as most folks were already hedging off of the June month there because they've been pulling cattle ahead quite a bit here for the last few months. Let's look at your board. For Monday, April live cattle futures were actually up 32 cents at 174.30. That's staving off any delivery really because you know, most of that happens in the southern plains, and that's really about all they got late in the week. For cattle was 174, but 174.30 on your April live cattle contract, which nobody is trading anymore. June contracts, the all important, was up 2 cents at 164.55. Your weighted average on last week's steers in your 5-area feeding region was 178.57. That's not even close, guys. Your back months were down 10 cents to down 45. Feeder cattle for April was down 122, and you would expect a bearish cattle and feed report to affect your feeder cattle, and it did. April down 122 at 202.55, still in there real tight with what our index levels are at. But May lost a ton, down 165 at 210.75, still trading at a nice premium there. Your back months on feeder cattle were down 17 cents to down 55, and the down 55 was your August, the all-important August for all those grass yearlings coming off, it's down to 229.17. Still sounds pretty darn handsome there, guys, and if you're not making money at that on cattle coming off grass, you gave way too much for them. Talk about your grains. May corn was down 12 cents at 6.51 1/4. New crop December down just a half a cent at 5.47 1/2. May beans down 18.25 cents a bushel at 14.65 1/4. New crop November beans down 8.5 at 12.76 3/4. Your weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle trade out of your 5-area feeding region was only 62,500 head compared to 73,400 the previous week and 97,500 the same week a year ago. Steers and heifers in the 5-area ranged in price last week from 170, which only 35 head actually traded at 170. There was another 135 that traded at 172, but most of them traded, more up in there. There were several at 173 to 183. About 1,000 sold at the top of that price range at 185. That price range was steady to $1 lower only. Your weighted average on live steers in the 5-area 178.57, down $1.87. It's hard to believe that we would be down $1.87 last week when the previous week we were up about $7.25 on your weighted average. So that was a big turnabout there. Your dress sales last week, fat steers and heifers ranged from 276, which less than 100 traded at, all the way up to 290, which 2,300 traded at. But your price spread was $4 to $8 lower. Dress basis, weighted average on dress steers was 287.42, down $2.35 compared to the previous week's weighted average. Nationwide negotiated fat cattle sales were only 73,800 head when your packers desperately need cattle because they've got a big demand for beef. But that's 73,800 compared to 86,800 the previous week and 110,600 head the same week a year ago. So they are that much further behind on their negotiated purchases. The carcass weights are down big. They don't have a lot of product, guys. You got them where you want them, but I just feel that our few negotiated sellers are not going to dig in and try to get more with this huge basis out there. But of that 73,800 negotiated in your nationwide, about 18% of them were for the 15 to 30 day delivery, which is not huge, so that's a good thing. But 73,800 negotiated nationwide. Negotiated grid was 44,200. Forward contracting was 20,000 last week, and formula sales 256,800 head. Regionally, in your 5 area, which Colorado doesn't print anymore, so we don't get that, but of your 4 area, Iowa sold 20,800 last week, Nebraska sold 22,000, Kansas sold 12,000, and Texas only 7,800. Box beef cutout values were higher again. They're on a big rally, guys. They are all-time record highs, not for history, but for this time of the year. For this time right now of the year, they are at all-time record highs, and choices all the way up there at 307.12. That was up another 52 cents on Monday. Selects up 90 cents at 288.70. Slaughter was good on Monday, 124,000, but when they completely peter out on Friday and especially Saturday, we just can't keep these slaughter levels up. But talk about what else is going on. Night Latch Group, that's Andy Cunningham there. It's out of Laverne, Oklahoma, which you may not know where that is, but you don't need to know. You can get a hold of him online or on the phone, and he can help you out with livestock gross margin policies that can manage your corn and your cattle. Don't you need that? Whether it's one pen or thousands of them, guys. But you can do it right there. And Night Latch Group encourages you to hold on to your investments. Go to nightlatch.net. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction. Late in the day on Monday, set at 202.97, down just 17 cents. So that feeder cattle market is pretty resilient. Guys, we're still hungry for feeder cattle and calves on Monday, and your big sales and all around, only down 17 cents from the end of last week. I would say that's pretty encouraging there. Talk about your big high volume sales. Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City had 8,500 head. Feeders were steady. Calves were steady in a much lighter test. They're hoping for rain there in Oklahoma. But really Kansas looks like it has its best shot, and that's where they need it the most. Tell you what, God delivers, and all these prayers for rain, I hope, are going to be fulfilled here middle part of this week. But a stick-out sale at Oklahoma City was National Livestock Commission. They sold 63 head of 803-pound steers at $199.75. Doesn't sound much lower. No, it's steady. Joplin Regional Stockyards, 8,400 head for them. Smoky sale, and they have just been selling the cattle so good there at Joplin all calendar year, especially $2 to $5 higher on most all weights, except for Pee-wee steers weighing from the light 4s and down, and they were $8 to $10 higher. A stick-out sale in Joplin on some big steers was 82 steers, weighed 863 at $204. Russell Livestock Auction in Russell, Iowa had 3,700 head. The market was kind of uneven compared to the last good test, which was 2 weeks ago. Russell is our Zoetis stick-out sale of the day with a good test on many, many weights, and I'm going to tell you about them here. Look at our automated market report through Cattle Market Central, and you see 320 head of 4-weight steers in Russell, Iowa. They average 461 with an average price of $258.68. 488 head of 5-weight steer calves in Russell, Iowa, average 543. Weighted average price on those $251.77. 417 head of 6-weight steers, average 652. Weighted average price $229.80. Look at some heifers. How about 263 head of 4-weight heifer calves, average 460. Weighted average price $229.66. 325 head of 5-weight heifers, average 535, average price $227.24, and 340 head of 6-weight heifers, average 645, average price $205.15. Give you some individual quotes from all around. How about Callaway Livestock Center in Kingdom City, Missouri? Jack Harrison got a really good sale going there. He sold 75 head of 693-pound steers that bring $232.85. Tri-State Livestock Auction in McCook, Nebraska sells 61 big steers weighed 934 at $199.25. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Monday, your Mackerson No BS top quote for the day, come out of Faith, South Dakota at the Faith Livestock Auction. It was 81 head of 515-pound steer calves. They bring $2.92 a pound. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.